Hello and welcome back to my channel. Firstly, I'm going to apologize for the last video I posted. It was like super low quality and dark and grainy. I'm not quite sure what happened other than the video was potentially way too long and I had to super compress it to be able to get it onto YouTube. So I'm going to attempt to do a better job today. The lighting already is wonky, so I'm going to have to figure out a better solution now that I've switched location as to where I'm filming. But anyways, we'll get straight into the pregnancy second trimester as promised in terms of what's been happening and what to expect. So when I last ended my first trimester video, I basically was going into like the symptoms that I've been experiencing throughout first trimester, which included being extremely tired and starting to have like fainting problems. So fainting problems were the beginning of second trimester for me. So because of, increased blood flow, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know any of this in terms of scientific explanations for any of this, but because of the volume of blood or something in me, I started passing out a lot. So second trimester was the last time I drove. So I couldn't drive after that because I couldn't really predict when I was going to pass out. Usually I would feel quite tired beforehand, but because I felt tired all the time, it wasn't enough of an indicator for me, so I just didn't feel safe driving, so I didn't. So that was week 14 for me, starting to faint. Week 15 is the first time I actually started to feel fine, and it scared me so badly. I contacted my doctor and I got an appointment because first trimester had been so horrific in terms of the throwing up, the nausea, the extreme exhaustion, that by week 15, when I didn't have like a headache and I didn't have nausea and I didn't have any kind of major complaint, I was utterly convinced because of my past experience that something had happened. But nothing had happened. Everything was fine. And thank you to my wonderful obstetrician for seeing me so quickly and alleviating my fears. But basically, week 15 I was fine, and then week 16 was like, haha, just kidding, you're not gonna have a nice second trimester. And that's when really terrible headaches started. So every day I was getting horrible, debilitating headaches that basically you can't really take much for them, nothing really quite effective. My doctor prescribed me Panadeine Forte, which I was so reluctant to take because it had to the point where I couldn't move for me to take them, because otherwise if I took them preemptively like I did pre-pregnancy when I was, could feel a headache coming, I just didn't want to be taking Panadeine Forte every single day of my pregnancy. So we started just trying to see if there's other ways that we could get to relieve the headaches. And so that is when my husband decided to test out a theory, which he's had our entire relationship. So we've been together for over 10 years. Married 9 this year, I think. He is utterly convinced that I don't drink enough water. I hate drinking water. I just feel like it makes me more nauseous, which is during a pregnancy something you don't want. And so I'd always kind of push back against it. But he decided to try and figure out other ways to get me hydrated. So he bought me Powerade with the electrolytes in them. It was wonderful. So I can't explain the difference that I felt in finally not feeling thirsty, which I don't think I truly understood how thirsty I probably felt for the past 10 years, but it was like night and day. My headaches would go away as long as I had a Powerade each day, as well as some other drinks, because I've been trying to drink water even though I don't like it, and provided I'd have that Powerade or 2 per day, I wouldn't get a headache. So it took us about maybe a month to really be satisfied that it was definitely the Powerade that was doing it, because at first I was just like, whatever, it's not that much of a difference. But when we'd run out of the Powerade and I'd go a few days before we were at the grocery store, basically I started to work out that he was 100% correct, and provided I drank enough, I could keep the headaches away. So Powerade is now in full stock. We always have like 100 bottles in our house, and I go through 1, sometimes 2 a day. That did increase the amount of times I had to go to the bathroom, but I think it's a normal person thing. Like, I used to go to the bathroom once a day. Now I go several times a day. which is normal not only for pregnancy, but I think for a normal human. So if you're suffering with headaches, it might be worth a try. You never know what might work and what might not, but it definitely worked for me. So I am obsessively drinking my Powerade. So that was week 16. Week 16 to 20 was really like the worst of the headaches, but like I said, that was how we figured out that Powerade was, or just hydration, was the solution. For other people, in terms of what to expect, they say to have that some people have an increased sex drive around week 17 in particular, and it, you know, could grow from there. That didn't happen for me, but that might be something that if you're experiencing with weird symptoms, that might be something to look out for. In terms of week 18, my appetite started to increase and I started having some cravings. So I haven't had any weird, wild cravings, but I would just get in my head that I had to have something, and it became really hard to deter me from it. So at one point, I really badly wanted Doritos, and then at another point, I just was insistent on having apple juice, and so and like drank like 2 liters in like 2 days, and so nothing crazy dramatic for me in terms of pregnancy. I know a lot of women experiencing some very intense you know, food combinations and things like that, but this baby has been very adamant that he is in control and very much decides what I eat and how much I eat. So baby doesn't like sugar, baby doesn't like meat, so I'm full vegetarian throughout this pregnancy. Baby doesn't like salt. What else doesn't baby like? Salt, sugar, meat, dairy. Can't have dairy. So I've been lactose free throughout this pregnancy as well. So it's I mean, in some ways it's been good. I mean, if you take out dairy and meat, it definitely forces you to find healthy alternatives, as well as the fact that if you can't have sugar or salt, it pretty much takes away everything that's bad for you. So I have only gained pregnancy weight during this pregnancy, no weight anywhere else except for my belly. So weight wise, I'm doing fantastic. And so I'm gaining exactly the amount of weight I'm supposed to per the pregnancy, and nothing anywhere else yet for me. And so this is a video obviously on what to expect for a second trimester, but in terms of where I am right now, I'm at the beginning of my 3rd trimester. So in terms of what to expect, if you're eating, you know, healthily and nothing too dramatic, you can probably expect to just be gaining weight per what they recommend you gain for the pregnancy. I haven't had any intense weight gain problems elsewhere. Week 19 is when so warning for anyone who, I mean, if you're basically like 5 to 10 minutes into this video, I suppose don't watch if you don't want to know about these super sensitive things. I'm not holding back. If you know me and don't want this much detail about me, feel free to stop the video. But basically, I just think the most helpful thing to me in the pregnancy, particularly when I was in 2nd trimester, was just obsessively watching videos on what to expect, because there's just so much going on. I mean, 1st trimester, a lot of people, for, you know, obvious reasons, don't share the pregnancy with people yet. 1st trimester is when you're going through the biggest changes, arguably, during your pregnancy. And for 2nd trimester, again, there's still many more changes, and it's so hard to know what to, you know, what is normal, what is not. And so I personally, in 2nd trimester, joined a bunch of Facebook groups, mums and expecting mothers, and C-section groups, breastfeeding groups, etc., just to get an idea of, you know, week by week what to expect, because in those groups there's thousands of people in them. Chances are someone either is in your week and experiencing the same thing, or someone just ahead of you can tell you when the weird symptom's going to end. So it was just really comforting having that kind of support, particularly during a pandemic. You're already so worried about things. There's limitations in terms of going to the doctor. So for me, during the 2020 pandemic, I haven't been able to go to the doctor with my partner, so I go by myself. And it's just been a little bit, I felt different from my previous pregnancies, which, if you've been here before, I've not successfully had a child yet. And this is my first one, where I've successfully made it through 1st and 2nd trimester. But in terms of the previous pregnancies, I always felt better in the previous appointments where he could go, because he would ask some questions, I would ask some questions, and it felt balanced, like I wasn't asking too many questions. But when it was just me at the appointments, it definitely felt like I was just interrogating my obstetrician. And so I found the Facebook groups really, really helpful, so that's something I really recommend joining. But moving back on to awkward things to discuss, week 19 is when my nipples started to hurt super, super badly. So basically my midwife told me to start being rougher with my skin in that particular area, because for breastfeeding, it's quite painful of an experience, I understand, and you need to basically toughen up that area. And so she was like, yep, they're gonna hurt, and you really just need to push past the hurt. You know, don't be overly gentle. That's why a lot of women have a lot of difficulty with breastfeeding, because we keep them, you know, in our padded, nice bras. There's no chafing against them. And so when baby basically is chafing against them by sucking on them constantly, and you have that saliva against your nipple and the latch against your nipple from breastfeeding, apparently that's, you know, a large part of why it hurts, and people get cracked nipples and they bleed and things like that. So they become, around week 19, extremely sensitive, and just apparently just push past and don't go out of your way to try and make them more comfortable and things like that. My midwife recommended to just be more aggressive and get them to toughen up, basically. So that's what I tried to do. We'll see how successful I was in, you know, 10 more weeks when I have the baby. In terms of week 20, this was when I really, really started to have a baby bump. So I know a lot of people worry about, you know, how big they are or aren't, depending on whatever your personal situation is. And so I remember thinking the entire, like, first trimester, beginning of the second trimester, I was like, at some point am I going to be showing? Because I was a very skinny person. I assumed that it would be fairly dramatic for me. Wasn't the case. I mean, around week 17, week 18, I definitely started to notice what could be maybe a food belly, but it really was like, it was borderline if it was a food belly or a baby belly. But week 20, it was just very obviously a baby belly. So week 20 is when I'd say there was no doubt. If you want to see my week by week pregnancy photos, they're on my Instagram, and I've been documenting each week what the growth has been like. And week 20, you probably for sure see your bump then, without any doubt that it's your actual baby bump. Another thing to expect during week 16 to 20 is virtually every person in your life will start asking you if you're feeling the baby move. So this scared the crap out of me, because I didn't. It's very subtle at first, and it is very hard to describe to other people. Once you feel it, and you know that it's your baby, for sure, you'll definitely recognize in hindsight that you were feeling it earlier. But week 16 to week 20, everyone kept saying, are you feeling it? Are you feeling it? I was not. I found out at week 20, when they did a 3D ultrasound of my baby for medical reasons, not the picture one that people get. They told me I had an anterior placenta, meaning if there's, you know, the placenta is between you and the baby, so you wouldn't be able to feel it, the kicking, as early as other people could, people with a posterior placenta. So in terms of an anterior placenta, for me, it really took until about week 22 that I started to feel what other people were describing. But again, I don't think I truly felt like it was certain sensation until about week 24, when it started to become super obvious that it was in fact the baby. So the best way I can describe what I was feeling, and again, you could feel this as early as week 16, somewhere between week 16 and week 20 is perfectly normal. For people with anterior placentas like me, it was really like a popcorn sensation, as if popcorn was popping inside of me, and very, very subtle and very light. And I can tell you now, in week, what am I? I'm 29 now, week 29. So basically over the course of the month, you'll start feeling more and more movement. And so at first I would feel like, it was very low for me. So I'd feel it in like my pelvic area at first. And it took until about a month later. So for me, around week 26 to 28 was when I started feeling distinct movements. You know, I could feel when I was being kicked. I could feel when he was rolling around in there. I could feel when he was like readjusting where he was sitting, and so I'd all of a sudden have this big you know, lump of a head or a lump of a butt suddenly pushing out and making my, you know, normal round belly slightly misshapen. So basically you'll know when you feel it. It becomes quite obvious. Week 16 to week 20 you'll probably only feel the slight flutters, but after that you will definitely feel distinct kicking. Right now I'm being kicked, I can tell you it's very distinct. So that's something that I understand just gets more intense as the pregnancy goes along, and so I'm very curious to see how that progresses in itself. So I'll definitely do another video for third trimester to let you know what to expect then. Alright, so week 20 is also, it marks the spot of when I had to get a belly band. So again, as a very normally skinny person, I had quite a bit of trouble with the overhang sensation of the belly. It was starting to become like I was carrying around like a bowling ball without any support. So I had to get a belly band because it was really starting to hurt my back. I really recommend a belly band if you're experiencing that kind of sensation, because it really only got worse, and the belly band was really what prevented the pain. And I also got a pregnancy pillow that week because you start to feel very intense pressure on your hips. Mine hurt quite badly by week 20, and it was just in order to be able to sleep and keep the pressure off of certain parts of my bones. The pregnancy pillow is something that I swear by. It wasn't something I planned on investing in. I was like, whatever, I'll use a regular pillow. But I have to admit, having the giant pillow to surround me so I can just kind of make myself a cocoon of pillows for all the sore parts of my body and just feel like I had more support around me was very helpful. Other people use it because it helps them, it prevents them from rolling on their back, which you're not supposed to do. So if you're a back sleeper, it's a good way to try and keep you propped up on one of your sides. And so a lot of people I know use it for that reason. So to each their own if you want a pregnancy pillow or belly band or not. But week 20 onwards is when I found that helpful. Week 21 is when your belly button can pop out. Hasn't happened to me, thank goodness. I think for some reason I find that really scary because I've had laparoscopies. I just have like this, I just keep imagining like a really horrific belly button, OD belly button, but that hasn't happened for me, but that can happen around week 21. Week 22, I started becoming intensely thirsty, like as if no matter what I did, my thirst could not be quenched, and so I was having like 2 or 3 Powerades and like endless cups of water, and nothing would quench it. And so I started chewing on ice around that time just to kind of have that sensation of at least try and pretend that I was getting constant water. So I started eating ice a lot in week 22. Week 23 is really when I started to see the weight gain for myself. So like I said, I've had a pretty easy weight gain journey in terms of, you know, it says it will slowly grow over time, and that's exactly what happened for me. It was very slow, but week 23 is when it really started. I started visibly changing size each week. Everyone would comment on it, and so you do start to notice that there's, you know, quite a bit of a pop out, as well as a distinct growth, because I think I went from like, I think right now I'm, according to my app, I'm like a head of cauliflower or lettuce. And back then, you know, I was a little thing like banana or something. So like the change in that time is quite significant. Then the other thing you can get, so week 24, so they have a dark line that forms, oof, I'll stand up. So they have a dark line that forms from like about here all the way down through your belly button and down towards your pelvic area. It's called, I'm not certain if I'm saying this right, but it's called the linea nigra. And it's basically a dark line that forms down the center of your belly button line. That definitely formed for me. It was very distinct. So very curious if that goes away after pregnancy, but that line is there for me. And then 25, 26, and week 27, well, 25, 26 was the end of the second trimester, and honestly, it was just more of the same, just more growth. I started to become a little bit out of breath, because as the uterus grows, it's pushing upwards against your ribs. So 25 and 26, as you can tell from my voice, I just became a little bit more out of breath and started to find movement a little bit harder. So I am starting to waddle a little bit just because there's just really no easy way to make my legs walk in a normal way. And so I've given up on trying to walk like a normal human. I'm definitely waddling. And so that was the last 2 weeks of second trimester. And the very last thing that happened for me in week 26 is I had to do the glucose test. So if you are pregnant, that is something that I apologize. That test was awful. You have to, it's a 3-hour test, and you have to drink this glucose drink where it's just basically like drinking like this nasty like drink that's like about this big, this wide. You have to drink it in less than 5 minutes. It's basically just like downing a glass of sugar in this like syrupy nastiness. It took me 3 days to recover from that test. They take out blood at the beginning, middle, and end of that test. And it's a test to see if you have gestational diabetes. I do not. It's gross. You'll get sugar headaches. I just basically had a headache and was so tired and slept through like the next 3 days. My baby shower was that weekend, so that was a horrible life choice in terms of planning that test. But I also did find out when I got my blood taken then was that I had extremely low iron reserves. So I got a blood transfusion that week. And it has changed things for me. So as for those of you who are here regularly, I normally post every week, if not twice a week. Throughout this entire pregnancy, I haven't been able to post at all. I am now posting, as you can see. I think it's because of the iron transfusion. So everyone kept saying during the pregnancy that you're so tired, that it's, you know, that you just feel exhausted all the time, and I just accepted that. I thought that was normal, so I never really said anything to my obstetrician. But turns out I should have said something about just how tired I felt, like dead tired, because now I do feel more like myself and more able to obviously do things like film these videos, which I couldn't even fathom doing in my first and second trimester because I was just unable to exist, let alone do anything extra. So if you're feeling exceptionally tired and you're not sure if it's normal, definitely ask your obstetrician to do a ferritin test. A check of your iron reserves. So I've always had low iron, I've always had anemia problems, but I had low iron reserves, meaning that, you know, I could take, you know, daily iron pills all I like, but it was doing nothing. And so I got an iron transfusion, and that was brilliant, and here I am, here in the third trimester, feeling much better. So I hope that was a helpful explanation of what to expect in your second trimester. If you have any questions, feel free to put them down below. I don't think there's a such thing as a silly question. So if you don't know, you know, you don't know who to ask and you want to ask someone, feel free to comment down below. Otherwise, like I said, join those Facebook groups. It's honestly the most reassuring thing I've had during this entire pandemic and this entire pregnancy. Just having so many women who can relate to what you're going through, even if you just, you know, have someone to be in misery with you. It's just kind of nice to know, you know, if what you're experiencing is weird or not, or, you know, when it might go away and things like that. So all the best to you if you are in your second trimester or about to be in it, or if you're just, you know, curious about pregnancy in general and you're just watching this video to know what to expect. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you when I do the what to expect for third trimester, as well as setting up our nursery and thrifting for our nursery once I am awake enough to film those videos. Alright, see you guys all next time. Bye!